I'd like to very quickly say a couple of things about shifts in the U.S. economic sectors, increases and declines in the U.S. economic sectors. Um, there are a number of places where you'll see some sort of summary data in charts and graphs. The first, obviously, is in the outline. So if you take a look at um, the outline, you'll see a graph that shows both increasing and declining sectors of the economy from 1947 to 2009. I'm actually going to share. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to share my screen so you can see a slightly different version of this. This is actually in the video and media folder. So if you click on that and you go to module 2, you'll see a folder that contains charts and graphs. So that's where you'll find this document. But if you look at the various lines here on this graph, you'll see the relative growth and decline of certain key sectors. So the dashed red line that you can see here, that kind of is the single highest proportion. This is a percent. This is measured as a percent of GDP. GDP is just the total gross domestic product, the total value of all the domestically produced goods and services in the United States. You can see that finance, insurance, real estate, rental, and leasing is the single largest sector of the economy in 2009. You can see manufacturing, which is this dashed blue line, which kind of reaches its peak in the post-World War II era. You can see that that's been declining pretty steadily since the late 1960s. So that's been on the decline. The solid red line representing professional and business services, what we call the producer services. You can see that line is climbing. You can see that things like agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting, which would be primary sectors of the economy, have really never been a gigantic share of the GDP since the post-World War II era, but has declined quite considerably from about 7.5 or 8% in the post-World War II era to somewhere in the area of about maybe 1 or 1.5% in 2009. So again, you don't need to keep track of all of these numbers or percentages, but this will allow you to have some sense of relative size. So people who talk about the size of the U.S. government as a percent of GDP, that's this dashed black line. You can see that that's actually not quite big, and it's remained fairly stable and steady, hovering somewhere between 10 and 15% of GDP for a fairly long period of time. If you'd like to see the same basic chart, but up to 2017. The resolution on this one is not quite as good, and there aren't as many sort of divisions. But again, you can kind of see the dotted red line here representing manufacturing shows considerable and ongoing decline since its peak in the immediate years after World War II. You can see that government has remained relatively stable, hasn't gone up very much, hasn't gone down very much, but finance, insurance, real estate, and rental has gone up. Professional and business services have gone up. Education and healthcare have gone up as a share of GDP. So that's, again, a nice kind of way to sort of look at shifts in the economy, right? Where various sectors of the economy have been dominant at different points in time. The share of GDP represented by manufacturing has, of course, declined significantly. Agriculture, primary sector work, right, has not been a significantly large portion of GDP for quite some time. But where we've seen the greatest amount of increase is in the value that's being produced in the producer service sector of the economy. So I just wanted everyone to have a really quick understanding of those tables, and a quick little reference for shifts in the relative size of these sectors in the economy. And we'll talk about these more in class. We'll elaborate on them in conversation when we meet in person. But in the meantime, of course, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out and let me know. And until the next time, I'll say goodbye.